guys, welcome to Bible Breakdown. We're doing Isaiah chapter 27. This chapter is titled Leviathan Slain. So this chapter is very short. There's not many verses attached to it. For the first verse, I wrote that the defeat of Leviathan relies on the coming of the Messiah. So that verse says, "On that day, the Lord with his relentless, large, strong sword will bring judgment on Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, Leviathan, the twisting serpent. He will slay the monster that is in the sea." And from my research, I heard that Leviathan is chaos and untamable evil. Now moving forward to verses 2 to 6, I wrote that it shows the way that God cares for his people. God has a desire for us to be fruitful, and he also provides us with so much nurturing love. I do also want to note that starting at verse 2, the title changes, so it's now titled The Lord's Vineyard. So with that being said, a vineyard is being used to provide imagery so that we see how the Lord would care for us. And basically he's doing all that he can to set up this vineyard to be fruitful and multiply. More specifically in verse 3 it says, "I am the Lord who watches over it to water it regularly so that no one disturbs it. I watch over it night and day." Now moving on to verses 7 to 9, I wrote that Israel sees the mercy of God by him not striking them down as bad as he did the other nations. He also covered them from their sins, and he destroys their idols. So my first point is mostly in verse 7. It says, "Did the Lord strike Israel as he struck the one who struck Israel? Was Israel killed like those killed by the Lord?" And then the other 2 points is mentioned in both verse 8 and 9, but mostly verse 9. It says, "Therefore Jacob's iniquity will be atoned for in this way, and the result of the removal of his sin will be this: when he makes all the altar stones like crushed bits of chalk, no Asherah poles or incense altars will remain standing." Then going to verse 10 and 11, I wrote that it speaks on God's judgment and what comes with being unfaithful, a city that is left deserted and abandoned. It talks about how the city will be desolate, and then it also mentions in verse 11, "Therefore their maker will not have compassion on them, and their creator will not be gracious to them." And then to end the chapter for verses 12 and 13, I wrote that it shows reunion to God's restoration despite the past. So in these verses, it's talking about people that are lost from Assyria and Egypt and how they'll be brought back to Jerusalem to worship the Lord. Overall, I feel like this is another hopeful chapter that gives us insight of what's to come when the Messiah comes. But that is all I have for you guys. That is the end of this chapter. I will see you guys tomorrow for Isaiah chapter 28. I love y'all. God loves y'all more. Have a great night.